Time now for a look at what's happening in our community. Brought to you by Leith Nissan in Cary.
It's 10 o'clock. Is it time to schedule service? Visit sportdurst.com.
Good morning, I'm Amy Elliott in for Caroline Blair.
And I'm Justin Quisenberry. Here's your Spectrum News in 90. Penalties for speeders at Fort Bragg will be going up starting tomorrow. Anyone going 15 miles or more over the speed limit will lose their on-base driving privileges for a month, followed by more severe penalties for further offenses. Anyone going above 80 miles an hour will get an automatic one-year suspension.
Today is the deadline for Wake County Public School seniors to apply for the Future Teachers Program. The program offers them professional development courses and networking opportunities while they're getting their degree. Students who finish the program will land a position with Wake County Public Schools when they graduate.
Raleigh's biggest music festival is almost here. Preparations are underway for the event tomorrow and Sunday. J. Cole, Drake, Usher, and dozens of other artists will hit the stage at Dorothea Dix Park in front of a sold-out crowd.
And it's time to get a check of your weather now with meteorologist Lee Ringer. Hi, Lee.
Hey, good morning. Not looking bad as we wrap up the week and the month on this last day of March, a Friday. Some sun mixed with clouds, partly sunny. We will become breezy into the afternoon as temperatures warm up a little bit warmer than yesterday. Between noon and 1 o'clock will be around 70 degrees. Our high about 3, 4 o'clock at 75. Late afternoon and early evening, there's a slight chance for a shower. Our low temperatures will drop just to the 60s tonight.
Thanks so much for starting your morning and wrapping up your week with us right here on Spectrum News 1.
Glad to have you with us. Today is Friday, March 31st. A big story we're following this morning. Former President Donald Trump has been indicted on criminal charges in New York, and he now faces arrest.
Washington correspondent Cassie Simeon has the latest on this unprecedented moment in American history.
The indictment against former President Donald Trump comes from a Manhattan grand jury reviewing hush money allegedly paid during the 2016 campaign to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Trump's attorney confirmed he was aware of the indictment. The former president responded with a statement calling this, quote, political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history, and attacking Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. It's not exactly clear yet what charges Trump faces, but he's accused of covering up the payments his former lawyer Michael Cohen made to Daniels so she wouldn't go public with claims she had an affair with Trump. Trump denied he had an affair. Cohen himself was convicted of campaign finance and tax evasion charges related to the payments. In a statement late Thursday, Cohen said, "I do take solace in validating the adage that no one is above the law, not even a former president." Trump now becomes the first U.S. president, current or former, to be charged with a crime. Trump is expected to surrender to authorities instead of being taken into custody. That could happen next week. In Washington, Cassie Simeon, Spectrum News.
Well, thanks to Cassie for that report, and we will have more about this at the bottom of the hour and, of course, throughout the day.
But in the meantime, you can download the Spectrum News app. It features custom notifications and the ability to watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's available wherever you get your apps.
Another big story we're covering for you, the private school mass shooting in Tennessee on Monday. Happening today, a funeral for one of the student victims from the shooting, Evelyn Dickhouse. She is the youngest girl next to her mom in this picture. Services will take place in Nashville. The family has asked everyone to wear bright pinks and other spring-like colors in her honor. A private family burial will take place on Saturday. Also on Saturday, another victim, 9-year-old Hallie Scruggs, will be laid to rest. Services for the other victims are expected to happen next week. Meanwhile, groups speaking out following the Nashville, Tennessee school shooting earlier this week. A large crowd of protesters gathered at the Tennessee state capitol yesterday calling for stricter gun laws. 3 9-year-old children and 3 school employees were killed in the attack. The shooter, 28-year-old former student Audrey Hale, also died after being shot by police. The Covenant School massacre is the 19th shooting at a school or university in just the past 3 months.
Classes have been canceled for the rest of the week at a community college interstate after a gun-related incident on the school's campus yesterday.
Winston-Salem police say 18-year-old Shannon Howard James Pitts was in the bathroom in one of the buildings on campus when he shot himself in the hand with a handgun. Students at Forsyth Technical Community College were alerted that there was an active shooter through an alert system, and the campus was placed on active lockdown for several hours. Authorities say Pitts is a student at Winston-Salem Prep, and he and around 600 other county high school students were on campus for a program. The superintendent of Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools says while this was a false alarm, her concerns remain. She encouraged families to talk with their children about recent shootings.
WSPD says Pitt's injuries were not serious. He faces 2 counts of bringing a firearm onto an educational property and carrying a concealed weapon. Right now, nearly 20% of children in Durham go hungry every day. Same goes for 12% of boys and girls in Wake County. That's a statistic from Feeding America, a nonprofit organization that tracks hunger trends and is linked to more than 200 food banks across the country. Earlier this month, community members met during a health summit to talk about the issue. Spectrum News 1 reporter Patrick Thomas was there and heard from the leader of one group working to stamp out hunger.
These hungry souls come from all over, striving to find something they can eat.
When the pandemic started, we started, working together. I'm a part of La Semilla.
There's one for the driver.
Laura Jaimes is a food coordination volunteer with the group La Semilla.
We have the boxes with a different kind of products. We have a veggies.
Jaimes tells me La Semilla relies heavily on donations to feed predominantly non-English speaking families.
Like this one right here, we had some salmon.
Going so far as posting on Facebook when and where they will be is key because the information is in Spanish.
I'd love to wake up and come and help the people because I think that's one of the parts we have to keep doing it.
You can see just how long this line of cars really is. I got here around 11 and we're not even 40 minutes into this hour-long food drive and cars keep rolling up by the second. Volunteers tell me they can pack 2 cars at a time in anywhere from 100 to 200 cars total in up to an hour or hour and a half time span.
We just try to put, different things for the people to cook.
Canned goods, bread.
We got some salt, bread.
COVID-19 testing kits, and even dog food, handing out a wide range of goods a household may need. One car rolls in as another rolls out.
They just get the box. We don't make it hard for them.
But hunger doesn't roll away this easily.
So there was clearly a very urgent and basic need for food.
I met Edgar Vergara-Millán at the Community Health Summit. He says when the pandemic forced the service industry to close, many Latino and Latina families went without food.
It is still amazing to me that in the most affluent nation in the world, people go hungry.
At the beginning of the pandemic, Vergara-Millán created Iglesia La Semilla.
People do what people do.
Sometimes you don't have food to feed your kids. And this is the way, God talked to me. I just can go over there and grab a box and God provide. God always gonna provide.
Gracias.
Coming up on Spectrum News 1, Carowinds is marking its 50th anniversary today.
We take a look back at how it's changed over the years. So stay with us.
And it's time now to check back in with meteorologist Lee Ringer. I know that I shouldn't say I have big plans for the weekend, but I have plans and I would like to know if I need to cancel them or they're going to be outside.
And what time do we come over
Yes.
Anytime. Listen, I have a water table, I have trucks, I have school buses.
Great.
Anything.
So if you're a little kid.
If you're a little kid, I gotcha.
Can I play with the school buses too?
You probably could.
You know, there's going to be part of the weekend that's going to be perfect to get outside. That may be more towards Sunday. Outdoor plans tomorrow, I wouldn't completely cancel them, but we'll have to dodge a few showers and storms. Let's get through our Friday first of all, which in some areas started in the 40s. Raleigh low temperature this morning out at RDU 51, but most of us were in the 40s. Fayetteville 45, but a nice warm up. One of these nice spring days. On the final day of March, the view this morning out of the Raleigh-Durham Airport, we've had some clouds build in, some sun breaking through. So overall, we'll see partly sunny skies. Already at noon today, we'll be anywhere from the mid-60s to near 70. That'll be pretty close to what our highs were yesterday. So it's going to be a warmer afternoon compared to Thursday. Anytime between about 3 and 5, a lot of us will get into the mid-70s. And we'll be dry up through about 4 or 5 o'clock. We get closer to 6, then through just a little after sunset this evening, there could be a couple little light showers rolling through. Won't amount to a whole lot, but if you're going to be out, maybe going out to dinner, just a light shower in a couple of spots. And then we're in the 60s most of the night. A mild night. The winds are going to pick up today, and it's going to be real windy tomorrow as some showers and storms start to move in as early as 9 or 10 in the morning and last through about 2 in the afternoon. They're going to be scattered about, but 1 or 2 storms could be intense with some pretty strong wind gusts, and then those move out after 3 o'clock. So your outdoor plans after 3 should be dry, but it is going to be quite windy even once the storms move through. Should get close to 80 for a little while. The sun will come out after the storms move through, but we could get wind gusts over 40 miles per hour for a while tomorrow. Sunday, the winds will be lighter and you don't have to worry about storms at all. That's why I say Sunday may be the better day for outdoor plans. A little cooler, the 40s in the morning, but comfortable in the 60s in the afternoon. Then we warm up into next week. I'll have more on that coming up in 10 minutes.
In North Carolina, 4,041 people died from overdoses in 2021. According to the state's Department of Health and Human Services, that's the highest number on record.
But a recent announcement by the FDA could help prevent deadly overdoses in the future. On Wednesday, the FDA approved the first over-the-counter Naloxone nasal spray, which is an overdose reversal drug.
Spectrum News 1 reporter Kylie Panetta spoke with the executive director of Raleigh Recovery Center, who says this is a life-saving announcement.
I think New Waters is probably the first in this area, definitely, to do what we do at the level that we do.
A meditation space and a massage room, both part of a holistic approach to sobriety at New Waters Recovery. And around almost every corner, the center has Narcan, ready in case of an emergency.
So it is a medication that is given for the reversal for opiate-related overdoses. So that could be, heroin, fentanyl being the big one that we're dealing with now. Also any other synthetic opiate medications and things like that.
Executive Director Justin McClendon has seen just how fast and effective Narcan is.
We have unfortunately had a couple of situations on the front end when someone was in the intake process where we have had to administer it, and it's just a miracle to have it on hand and to be able to save that person's life.
The Food and Drug Administration recently approved Narcan as the first over-the-counter naloxone nasal spray. McClendon believes this move could help change the stereotypes people have about substance use and help more people have the chance to start their recovery journey.
The step, from us needs to be opening up the conversation about how can we remove those barriers, how can we, increase access to care so when individuals do become willing and motivated to make changes in their life, that they have access and ability to do so.
Thanks to Kylie for that story. We also spoke with an assistant professor at UNC's School of Social Work. Dr. Orrin Ware says estimates suggest approximately 25% of fatal overdoses related to opioids could be reversed if the general public and EMS have access to Narcan.
He also says North Carolina's Good Samaritan law may be useful in situations where someone with access to Narcan sees a stranger experiencing an overdose and can legally help.
So essentially with the Good Samaritan law, you're able to administer medical interventions as a layperson if you're doing it for the right reasons. So if you, for some for example, if you see someone who had an overdose and they're laying on the street, you as someone who has Narcan as a non-first responder can actually respond and administer Narcan.
As for when Narcan will be available over the counter, the FDA says it is working with the manufacturer to figure that out, but it could take months before it's switched from prescription to over-the-counter status. Many North Carolina health departments already offer Naloxone. We have that information on our website, SpectrumLocalNews.com.
Emergency room visits due to firearms dropped last year, but the numbers are still higher than before the pandemic. A new study published Thursday by the CDC found the weekly number of ER visits related to firearm injuries began to rise in March 2020, around the start of the pandemic. It began sharply increasing in May 2020 and then remained high until last year. Visits in 2020 and 2021 were 37% and 36% higher than the rate of visits in 2019. And visits in 2022 were still 20% higher than 2019. The sharpest increase in visits happened in late May 2020. The same week, George Floyd was killed by 3 former Minneapolis police officers. The video of his death sparked nationwide protests.
Still to come on Spectrum News 1, a shootout sent 2 Memphis police officers and a suspect to a hospital with serious injuries. We'll tell you what happened and update you on the condition of the officers involved. We'll have that story plus more news making headlines across the nation when we return.
Thank you for joining us here on Spectrum News 1.
You know, yesterday was definitely a great day to get outside, enjoy the weather, especially if you have a dog. This scene right here was at Flaherty Dog Park in Wake Forest yesterday.
Those are some really cute dogs right there for sure. Let's see if it will be good dog walking weather this weekend. Let's get a check of your latest weather on the One's forecast.
Thanks for staying with us on a Friday morning. I'm meteorologist Lee Ringer back in the forecast center. Pretty nice day to wrap up the month of March. A view earlier this morning in Raleigh on the lethality camera. We've had a lot of clouds for a while, some sun breaking through other times. So a partly sunny day today, helping us to get into the 70s, a little bit warmer than yesterday. In fact, some upper 70s toward the southern Sandhills. Lumberton, I think we get to 78 today. Wilson will say 75, Henderson 72. Winds are now going to start to pick up. It is going to be a bit breezy this afternoon. We'll get some gusts over 20 miles per hour. And as that warm air flows in with winds out of the south, our temperatures tonight will only drop to the low 60s. One note, if you're headed out to dinner this evening, right before and just after sunset, there's a slight chance for a few light showers. Nothing like what will be on radar west of us later today and into tonight. We're watching for the threat for severe weather, particularly in 2 different areas, one between Omaha and Chicago and one centered around Memphis. That's up to a level 4 risk for severe weather on our scale of 1 to 5. And that's a system that may bring us a few storms tomorrow morning into the early afternoon hours, but the storms should be weaker as they move into North Carolina. Still some that could impact our plans for part of the day on Saturday. Here's the start of Saturday. We'll be watching this front, and just ahead of it, a line of thunderstorms will be crossing the mountains. That line will be a bit of a broken line of showers and storms, but will track from west to east through the day. We could start to see some showers or a storm from that as early as about 9-10 tomorrow morning, and then those will be scattered through about 2 o'clock or so in the afternoon. By 3 and later, the storms will be moving east of us, but even once the storms passed, it is going to be quite windy. Our severe weather threat for tomorrow at a level 1 in this green shading, which pretty much includes all of central and eastern North Carolina, a little bit of lightning. I think the bigger concern would be the wind. Outside of any storms, the winds may gust a little over 40 miles per hour. There's some potential for a storm that could have 60 mile per hour wind gusts. Hail, not a big threat, a little small hail, not out of the question. These will move through very quickly, so I'm not concerned about flooding. Not a huge tornado threat, but tomorrow will be the first day of April, so we can't completely rule out a low risk for an isolated tornado. Notice it is a low risk, but one we'll be watching definitely for you. Meteorologist Vernon Turner and meteorologist Tom Miners will be in tomorrow watching any of these storms. Here's a look at the winds today before any storms. Gusts this afternoon up to 25 miles per hour. Before any storms early tomorrow, gusts to over 30, and even after after the storms, gusts to over 40 tomorrow afternoon. So a little period of some storms, windy all day, a high of 80. Sunday, a better day to be outside, lighter winds, sunshine, a little cooler in the 60s. And then we warm back to the 70s and 80s for highs through most of next week.
Here's some of the stories making headlines across the nation this morning. 2 police officers and a suspect are in a hospital after a shooting in Tennessee. Memphis police say they received a report of an armed man last night. When officers arrived on the scene, they say the suspect fired at them. According to Memphis police, the 2 officers and the suspect suffered serious injuries. There's no word on how the suspect was hurt, but the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is investigating this as an officer-involved shooting.
TBI special agents are investigating an officer-involved shooting in which an individual and 2 officers with the Memphis Police Department were shot. Preliminary information indicates that just before 7:30, Memphis police officers responded to a call of an armed individual at a convenience store in the 1200 block of East Rains Road. 2 officers arrived and within minutes encountered an individual outside of the business. During a brief foot chase along East Rains for reasons still under investigation, shots were fired and the individual, as well as both Memphis police officers, sustained gunshot wounds. All 3 individuals were transported to an area hospital for treatment.
At last check, all 3 people were listed as being in critical condition. Police have not released the names of the officers nor the suspect. A Utah jury has found actress Gwyneth Paltrow not liable for a ski collision that happened back in 2016. Retired optometrist Terry Sanderson sued Paltrow over injuries he says he suffered when the 2 collided at the Deer Valley Resort in Park City, Utah. But Paltrow argued that Sanderson skied into her. The civil trial jury deliberated for a little more than 2 hours yesterday before returning the verdict. Paltrow won her counterclaim, forcing Sanderson to pay $1 for damages, plus her attorney's fees. After the verdict, Terry Sanderson says he was very disappointed with the verdict. Paltrow wished him well as she left the courtroom. In the next half hour, more on the indictment of former President Donald Trump. We'll have a report from Florida as the Manhattan District Attorney coordinates with Mr. Trump's team on the terms of his surrender.
You know, probably my favorite thing is when we put in the afterburn roller coaster. At the time in the park's history, it's really what took us to the next level.
Plus, Carowinds turns 50. Our Jacob Reynolds will join us to tell you about the new things you can expect at the theme park this year. Those stories plus more news affecting you and your community straight ahead.
This is Your Morning here on Spectrum News 1. We'll be right back.
And I'm Amy Elliott in for Caroline Blair. Here's your Spectrum News in 90. We're coming up on April, which in our state is Tick and Mosquito Awareness Month, and the health department wants us to fight the bite. It says the insects can carry serious diseases, and by using insect repellent, wearing protective clothing, and securing your windows, you can reduce your risk. There were nearly 700 cases of tick and mosquito-borne illnesses reported in our state last year.
Governor Roy Cooper is calling on employers to apply for the Hire Vets Medallion program to show their dedication to employing service members. The medallions recognize an organization's commitment to veteran hiring, retention, and professional development. The application period is open until April 30th.
The Durham Bulls are ready to take the field. The team kicks off its season opener tonight at the Durham Bulls Athletic Park against the Norfolk Tide. The first pitch is set for 6:35 p.m.
And now here's a check of your latest forecast.
Good Friday morning. Watching some clouds building in, giving us a mostly cloudy to times partly sunny sky. For the most part, any rain will hold west of us, although right before and just after sunset this evening, we'll have a slight chance for a shower. Most of the afternoon dry and a little bit warmer than yesterday. We'll get highs in the mid-70s. Again, for a while this evening, just a few light showers. Our low temperatures tonight will just drop to the 60s.
Thanks for staying with us here on Spectrum News 1. In our continuing coverage of the indictment of former President Donald Trump, he is expected back in New York in the coming days to answer to the charges now filed against him.
A grand jury approved an indictment in a case that started with hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Spectrum News' Angie Gonzalez has more on the reaction from the attorneys involved in the investigation.
Some here in Washington and in the Trump camp were blindsided by the news of the indictment. They had been prepared for this decision and that it could come as early as last week. But then recent media reports this week indicated that the grand jury was about to go on a several-week hiatus before making a decision. CNN is citing its sources as saying that Trump is facing more than 30 counts related to business fraud and will be arraigned next Tuesday. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office says it's been in contact with Trump's attorneys to coordinate his surrender. Trump's attorney, in a separate investigation looking into his handling of classified documents, weighed in on the case.
Alvin Bragg has gone and kind of, crossed the line to be the first to say, yes, we're going to actually indict a former president.
For months, the grand jury, which handed down the indictment, has been investigating alleged hush money payments made by Trump's former attorney and fixer Michael Cohen to porn star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election. Daniels' attorney says he takes no pleasure in seeing the case move forward.
I think it's a sad day where we had, a former leader of our country, the President of the United States, indicted.
Cohen echoed that sentiment. In 2018, he pled guilty to campaign finance violations in connection with the $130,000 payment that sought to buy Daniels' silence about an alleged affair with Trump.
Whatever laws that sent me to prison should send him to prison. We're all supposed to be looked at in the eyes of the law the same.
In his own defense, the former president called the indictment a witch hunt, and his fellow Republicans are coming to his defense, including his former vice president, Mike Pence.
I think this is an outrage, and I would that this Manhattan DA would have thought better of it and put the interest of the nation first.
On Capitol Hill, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is one of those coming to the defense of the former president, tweeting that Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg has irreparably damaged our country. On the Democratic side, Congressman Adam Schiff, a member of the House committee which investigated the January 6th attack on the Capitol, says that the indictment is affirmation that no one is above the law. In Washington, Angie Gonzalez, Spectrum News.
Our thanks to Angie for that report. You can stay updated on this story and other stories impacting you and your community by using the Spectrum News app. It's free, and you can download it in your app store.
Carowinds celebrates a half-century of business today. The park opened on a rainy North Carolina spring day on March 31st, 1973.
Spectrum News 1 reporter Jacob Reynolds joins us live from the park as they begin the 50 Years of Carolina Fun celebration.
On this day in 1973, 6,000 people came through those gates to have their first day at Carowinds. 50 years later, the park has undergone several changes, with just a few of those classic rides still remaining. But for the people who know the park best, they say the last half century has been quite the ride.
I have worked in this store, yes, doing candy apples.
The memories always come flooding back walking this 50-year-old theme park.
I remember making fudge and really slapping that fudge on the table.
For Dean Jackson, it's been her working life for nearly 44 years, from her start as a merchandise clerk to now HR supervisor.
Change is evident. It's always going to happen. And you can like it or you can't, but you need to go with it.
In 50 years, Carowinds has also changed, from regional theme park with a few rides to a major park, drawing visitors and families from all over the East Coast. Like Steve, who first visited in the mid-'80s.
I'd never been to Carowinds before. My roommate worked out here, and so I signed up for an interview, and I got an interview. but I went the wrong way on I-77. So I had to turn around, and so I kind of got a little lost on the way here the first day.
Steve started as a game technician as he finished college and split time with the Air National Guard. Over the years, he's had multiple jobs here and dozens of memories.
You know, probably my favorite thing is when we put in the afterburn roller coaster. At the time in the park's history, it's really what took us to the next level.
Across the park, Dean's favorite memories are a little different.
You know, you get to see all these different acts, and the tickets back then were like $10 a piece. So it was like really cool. You could go see Tina Turner and Foreigner and all these different bands.
While Steve says it's the people who have made the difference.
It pays the bills. I met my wife here. She still works here, so it's just kind of there's something special about Carowinds and the people that work here.
That includes a very special person who works here, his wife Dean, whose love story started in a Carowinds office 30 years ago when Dean played hard to get.
To be honest with you, I kind of played it like, okay, when Steve gets here, make sure I'm here. So, you know, I know that I can tell him what's going on and that kind of stuff. And then realized that wasn't really working. That wasn't getting any attention. So I started being not available.
I don't know that I realized she was actually doing that. She was always the go-to person. You know, if I needed something, I'd go down there, and it's like, hey, you know, she's kind of cute.
Eventually, Steve asked her to attend a concert at the park.
Jimmy Buffett, he was out here for like 10 years straight.
He and James Taylor would be every year. They would be here together.
It might have been James Taylor.
May have been.
While the details of that first date are now a little fuzzy, the couple is celebrating 25 years of marriage as the park they call home celebrates 50. The secret? Maybe it all comes down to keeping your coworkers happy.
If you can work at some place that you like and your home life is good, you know, happy wife, happy life, and happy at work, it doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't.
And believe it or not, when this park was built in 1973, it cost just $70 million. Now, some of those classics besides Sky Tower are the Scrambler, Gold Rusher, and Snoopy's Junction. Those are those last four still remaining from when the park opened on that first day. Here at Carowinds, Jacob Reynolds, Spectrum News 1.
Now that looks like a great time, I must say. Thank you, Jacob. Carowinds will officially kick off its 50th anniversary celebration later this summer.
Also, the park will stay open year-round for the first time, and it will unveil its new Aeronautica landing-themed area next week. It celebrates North Carolina's aviation history and includes several new rides. Straight ahead, this week's Feel Good Friday is meant to inspire young girls to become great women.
How a former service member is using art to uplift girls. We'll have that story and more news impacting you and your communities.
Yeah, I hope you stay with us right here on Spectrum News 1.